Hello and welcome people to a video in which I will enlighten you on the convoluted ways of recording PS2 footage with HDPVR2. Now, I've seen many videos on the internet suggesting that you should use these. Forget about them, they're terrible. They're the most awful thing you could ever use on your PS2 or just about any other console. What you should ideally use is the component cable that you get with your PS3. Now, why this isn't exactly the best way to handle it, I'll show here. As you can see, not yet, but there seems to be some sort of issue with encoding interlaced footage on the PS2. The edges of the characters seem to be... everything looks almost as if as if you were looking at it through stained glass. It's especially bad on things like this arrow because there's clearly something right in front of you. Now this is because Hobo cannot really encode weak RGB signal very well. There is one way around it, which I will show right now. And now we're back with the exact same pretty picture. However, now there is nothing like what you've seen before around the edges of the character or this adorable little quill. Why is it so? I used an S-video connector. This issue does not occur when you use the S-video connection. The only problem about it is that the accessories is optional. You can buy it on the website. However, due to some firmware issues, it has problems with changing resolution, and I can't exactly recommend it as of yet until it's updated. There is also another way of dealing with this issue, which works for some games. With this one in particular, it works perfect, which I will show in a second. And now we're back again to using the component cables. However, there is a thing you can do if you have a soft-modded PS2. And this is using GSM, Graphic Synthesizer mode. Now, this is a nifty little application that you can use, let me adjust it, to change the resolution modes on your PS2. Now, there were few games on the PS2 that supported HD resolutions, or progressive, let's just call them HD resolutions. But not too many. There were like maybe 20 of them out of like 5,000 they released. This application lets you force that type of resolution onto your PS2 game. Now, forcing doesn't always work correctly. This is one of those examples where it does work correctly and it gives fantastic results. This application lets you also use some sort of a skip video fix, because some games will just crash whenever there is an FMV sequence or something like that. It allows you to change between VGA modes if you have a PS2 modded to output to VGA, standard definition modes, which I will show you quickly, NTSC, NTSC non-interlaced, PAL non-interlaced, and PAL 60, which is very nifty because PS2 never actually supported PAL 60 until this came out, and PAL 60 works practically with everything that would have supported 60 Hz mode. I'm not quite sure if it would work for American TVs, but for people here in Europe it's very nifty because it's essentially NTSC but with better color quality and non-interlaced. When it comes to HD TV modes, it has 480p, 576p, which is European counterpart of it, 720p, 1080i, 1080i not interlaced, 1080p, and that's that. I wouldn't really go anything beyond 480p, 576p or 1080i, because these are, if it doesn't work with those, it probably won't work with any other ones. There's also a nifty little thing for PS1 games that I've checked, and it works in most cases if the game is in fact in 240p. It lets you change between the resolution modes, between PAL and NTSC. It's very nice, especially if you live in Europe, because then you can change the badly converted games back to the way they were supposed to be. I'll make a video on that later. For now, let's just change it to HDTV 480p, because that's what Tales of the Abyss works best in. Exit method selection, PS2 browser. Let's do this shit. Okay, and as you see, the picture looks basically the same as it does in the S-video mode. There is really not much difference when it comes to the pre-rendered elements of the environment. They may be slightly sharper. The main advantage of using this is that you don't have to deinterlace the footage, because it is essentially in HD. So it is just designed to be viewed on a computer. I will show more detailed, I'll show more videos, more comparison videos right around now. Now, for this part, I would highly advise you put the video into the full screen mode and in HD, because not everything is easy to see in this small player. Also, in order to grasp the full idea why things are different between those two connections, you're gonna need to pause the video at certain moments, because not everything is visible in motion. Although certain things, such as those buildings before, are pretty easy to see as they pan down. The glowy effects are particularly nasty in component connection. Also, pay no mind to the fact that one side has different contrast than the other. It's all up to the preferences in the capture module, which can be easily adjusted. They have just completely different defaults between different connections. Or you can see very easily here, as I said before, on the glowy elements of the environment, you can see it looks almost like stained glass. Or here, the main character's hair is almost as rough as shark skin. Also, the title suffers pretty badly from the component artifacts. As you will also see right here in a second. Now for this part I was no longer able to sync it up perfectly simply because of how the game is. But you will still see the artifacts even in the shitty in-engine, jagged in-engine graphics. Although not to such a degree because, yeah, they're already jagged by the in general. You can see it especially easily when in that last close-up on the monster, whereas on the on the S-video side, you see none of that. Both sides, on the other hand, regardless if it is component or composite, it has just perfect color encoding. So there is also that. It's easy. Again, the most noticeable thing is the character sprites. And now let's go to forced 480p against S-video, because there is no point comparing it to component. As you see, both sides are pretty much indistinguishable in this menu. The main difference between forced 480p and S-video is just on the technical side. The forced 480p is not going to have to be de-interlaced, which is very, very good. Because if you pause at just the right moments on the S-video side, especially in this game because it's very, very fast, you'll see quite a lot of interlacing artifacts. That is due to the interlacing method of my preference, which is Yadiv deinterlace plugin. It keeps the resolution pretty much the same as it is supposed to be, however it does not get rid of all of the interlaces. However, it does prevent the footage from ghosting. There isn't really any deinterlacing method that does not dilapidate the quality in one way or another. So if you can avoid having to deal with interlaced footage at all, it is the best option. Another thing worth noting is that in forced 480p mode, the game retains 60 frames a second in battles, which is pretty nifty.